What's going on, everyone? So, a lot of talk about Ben Simmons kind of being revamped, rejuvenated. Even his trainer said that he is better than he was his all-star seasons and is expected to kind of just get back to being that elite basketball player. I mean, there was a point in time, not that long ago, where this guy was looked at as a cornerstone for a franchise that was in the conversations for top 10, top 15 player in the NBA. That him and Joel Embiid were going to lead the Sixers to an NBA championship. That it was closer to an inevitability rather than a maybe. And yet Ben Simmons just continued to not be able to get out of his own way. In a lot of ways, he just kept tripping over his own feet. Look, there was accountability, in my opinion, on all sides, but Ben Simmons didn't do himself any favors. And it really did kind of stem from just Ben Simmons' just behavior in a lot of ways. You know, they're in practices and stuff, and he's like on his phone, just ignoring them, right? Like, it's just, he needs to get out of his own way. I want to see him have success. He was such a fun player to watch, 6'10", 240, just being able to handle the ball like a point guard, make plays. He's probably never going to be this like elite shooter or anything, but it was just always like, man, it's one thing to not be a good three-point shooter, but like he was like petrified to even shoot threes. And it was like, man, if he could just become a serviceable three-point shooter, imagine what he could do. And I do think he makes sense on many teams, right? A lot of teams want that kind of Draymond Green-esque player, right? A guy that can defend 1 through 5, make plays out of the post, run the point when need be, right? That versatile kind of point forward wing that can defend and play both sides of the ball. And Ben Simmons was a guy that could do that at a higher level. This is a guy, again, 6'10". He was nearly a triple-double. This is a guy, for his career, averages 15, 8, and 7. For his career still. And that's with him kind of falling off a cliff the last few years. This is a guy that at his, in his all-star seasons and, prime seasons, this guy was 17, 8, and 8. Give you, 2 steals, a block. This was a guy that could do everything. You look at a team like the Spurs and what they're trying to do with like a Jeremy Sohan. Ben Simmons would make a ton of sense in that role, alongside Victor, because of Victor's ability to stretch the floor. Now, there's 2 ways that this could work out for Brooklyn, right? Let's go under the assumption that Ben Simmons really, say he's at least back to that all-star level form. Say he's at least back to being that, 16, 8, and 8 guy. Now, you could either A, if you're Brooklyn, look at that as like, okay, we have a 28-year-old key build foundation piece, right? We have a guy that, yes, he's not, it'd be better if he was 23, but he's not. He's 28. If he's back to that all-star level form, we have a all-star level player that can play both sides of the floor, be your playmaker, and complement pretty much any star at any point. When the Nets got Ben Simmons, right, when they had Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, it was like, if Ben Simmons can get back to being Ben Simmons, no one's beating Brooklyn. Because it was like kind of that's the one thing they need to kind of balance out the Kyrie and KD duo, and also give you a guy that can defend multiple positions, right, on the both sides of the ball. And lo and behold, Ben Simmons just wasn't able to get back to that, right? So Brooklyn can either look at it and go, okay, he's a $40+ million expiring contract that maybe a team would be willing to take on, A, as a salary dump, right? Or B, as a team that's like, hey, we could trade and get Ben Simmons right now, kind of clear the books a little bit, and then kind of take a flyer deal on Ben Simmons if it works. Kind of take this year to look at and evaluate Ben Simmons, kind of get a nice feel and gauge for, does he fit? Do we like him? And then if it works and we want to make a splash, we can keep him, maybe get him on like a 15, 20 million deal, maybe a shorter term deal, maybe like a 2-year 30 million or 2-year 40 million deal. or just like approve it. And then that would free up flexibility to go and make other moves with several key free agents potentially being available this upcoming offseason. Right? That's one approach that a team could look at it. Or again, Brooklyn could look at it as like, why don't we be that team? There's talks about Brooklyn wanting to make a splash next offseason, right? I mean, you hear about like guys like Jimmy Butler. Oh, we could go get Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler doesn't make any sense. It's like, why in the world would you get Jimmy Butler when you just like if you kept Mikal Bridges, maybe, right? But like you got rid of Mikal Bridges. Well, if Ben Simmons can get back to being Ben Simmons, okay, well maybe you get a Jimmy Butler. Okay, well now you got your 3 and your 4 locked up. You got Claxton as your 5. So you got Butler, Claxton, and Ben Simmons. Can you go get a couple nice complementary pieces? Can you maybe go find a scoring option somewhere? You got assets to maybe get some deals done, pull off some trade, right? Or maybe you're going like maybe you're taking a flyer on like a Brandon Ingram, and seeing if Brandon Ingram slotted at the 3 with Ben Simmons. You have an all-star level player that you have flexibility with. Best case scenario for Brooklyn is that Ben Simmons gets back to being Ben Simmons. Right? Best case scenario is that Ben Simmons gets back to being that all-star level Ben Simmons, because that would just give you so much flexibility. That would give you so much opportunity at this point to not only potentially pull off a trade, but maybe even entice other people to come that are already interested in going to Brooklyn and be like, hey, Ben Simmons is back. He's motivated. He wants to be great. He wants to be the guy that he was at one point. This, that, and the other. Like, that's always a beneficiary standpoint, right? If you can take a guy that was looking and perceived as falling off of a cliff to now he's back to being elite, and maybe even get back into that, maybe not even top 10 to 15, but maybe he's back in that conversation for top 20, 25. Maybe people are like, man, like, because again, there was a point where Ben Simmons was looked at and perceived as elite. And he was. He was excellent. Give you, again, 16, 8, and 8, defend the best player on the other team, play essentially 1 through 5 for you. His size and versatility, you can slot him at the center, slot him on the power forward. Obviously, his shooting is a concern, but he's been working on that too. I don't ever see him just becoming elite. I don't see him like, now we got a 40% three-point shooting Ben Simmons. I don't see that. But can he get to like average? Can he be, 34% from three-point range on, 3 attempts or whatever, to where teams at least have to respect it? Better than going from like basically being completely non-existent. I mean, talk about a guy that for his career averages 0.01 attempts per game. This is a guy that for his career is just zeros across the board as far as like 3-point percentage goes, because he wouldn't even take them. But like now, if he at least take them and knock them down at even, like I said, the low 30s. That's not great. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't call him stretch Ben Simmons now or anything, but that's an expansion of his game. That shows improvement. And then on top of that, if he's still that 16, 8, and 8 guy, and he still can be a key foundation piece for them. Brooklyn with Ben Simmons, it would have been interesting to see them keep Mikal Bridges if Ben Simmons gets back on track, but Ben Simmons alongside a bunch of 3-and-D guys that they have could be fun to watch. I don't think that they're going to be very good. I don't think Brooklyn's, contending for a championship or anything like that, but it could make things interesting, right? It could be cool to see, like, okay, what can Ben Simmons do with a bunch of just 3-point shooting, floor stretchers, him creating, him kind of getting back to being point Simmons, and then now you can start kind of filling in what you need around Ben Simmons, or again, look to trade him. If he can get back to being the guy that people know know that he's capable of being, right? There's several teams. I mean, like I mentioned, Spurs would make a lot of sense in that regard because they're trying to turn Jeremy Sohan into this guy, right? They're trying to turn Jeremy into a Ben Simmons-esque type player. You can just go get Ben Simmons and probably get him on the cheap because you'd get him on a prove-it deal. Right? Like, that's not a terrible situation to be in. That's not a bad spot to be in. Even like, a team like Orlando who needs a playmaker could maybe benefit from that if they want to get off of some pieces or get off some stuff. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of flexibility here, depending on what version of Ben Simmons you get. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you think, Ben Simmons is going to get back to being that guy? Do you think, it's just his time has passed, it's gone? Again, I want to see him. I'd like to see him have success. I'd never want to root or support somebody just sabotaging themselves. I'd like to see him get out of his own way and actually get to being the Ben Simmons we know. I want to see the success of these guys, right? Like, I love it, right? The more talent we have and the more just all-star caliber players we have, the better the NBA is, right? Like, of course I want to see Ben Simmons succeed. Of course I want to see Ben Simmons be really good. But anyway, again, have a feel, whatever your thoughts are. I love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.